video is really just to outline the time frame from my own personal experience of looking for jobs to finally landing in China in Xiamen. So it all started about October, and I used a couple of websites, Teacher Horizons, TES websites, Guardian as well, the Guardian newspaper, to look for jobs. And by the January, I had narrowed down the jobs that were available to the ones I wanted to apply for. Had applied for them, and by the end of January had been offered a few interviews and started doing the interviews. Some of those were single interviews, some of them were 2 or 3 with different department heads and other people. By the end of January, so by the sort of 28th, 29th, I was given a few offers, and having been sent the contracts, read through them, and the 2nd of February I had accepted one of the positions that had been offered. So from that point I was then asked to send through my degree certificates and a few other things in relation to the courses that I've done, and to get the ball rolling, and obviously, you know, copies of my passport and things like that. So I sent those off pretty quickly in February, and was then asked to get a couple of things sorted out. So those things were a police check. I was asked for the ICPC, which is the International Child Protection Certificate, and also a health check for China as well. I'll go into those in more detail in another video. Both of those, it took me until March, the end of March, to get that sorted. So I had those by then. And then the next task was to get my degree, my teaching certificate, and the police check apostille stamped and notaried, and also legalised. So there were 3 groups of people that those had to go to. One was a notary who had to stamp the papers, and the other one then it goes to the FCO office, and the UK government stamps it or checks the paperwork, and then it goes to the Chinese embassy as well, and they check it. So the notary does some signatures and a stamp, and then the FCO office put their little stamp on there as well and sign that, and then it goes off to the Chinese embassy to get that. The notary and the FCO office are really quick. Those were done on about the 31st of March, so the end of March, within a couple of days of me sending it to the agents. I asked an agency to do it for me, just because it was a bit complicated, and I'm glad I did that. So by the 31st of March they had done their bit, and it was sent to the Chinese embassy to legalise it, and that took until the 19th of May, so waiting for that bit to be done was the longest bit. Those came back then in the middle of May. Well, from about sort of the 21st I actually got those back. And then my school were able to apply for the PU and letter and the work permit, and those were emailed to me on the 15th of June. I wanted to get things done quickly, so I got onto the website for the Chinese embassy in London and made my appointment, and that was on the 17th of June. And by the 24th I was able to go and pick up my visa, so that was quite quick. When I did check the visa, it had actually been signed on the 18th. It's just the embassy, the one I was using in London, they're only open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so even though it had been stamped on the 18th, that's why I had to wait. So that was the time frame to get the visa. Obviously once I had the visa, then it was a case of trying to get a flight. I'd gone on to Xiamen Airlines website, and I was lucky enough that when I checked, some flights that had been cancelled had been put back on, so I was able to get a flight for the 9th of July. And I was also lucky that at the time it seemed quite expensive, because it was about £4,300, but I paid it because I wanted to get it quick, and I was aware that the flights were going quite fast, and that was for the 9th of July. A few days later, certainly a week later, the price of some of those flights had gone up to something ridiculous like 8,000, 7,000, and even at one point 10,000 for a one-way flight. So it made me feel a lot better about paying the 4,300 I did, certainly because the flight was quite quick. So the 9th of July that came back, and then really what I needed to do was just get all of my documents put together, which I did. So I put them into 2 folders so they were really accessible, and then I had this one for my flights, which really just has everything in different places, just so it was easy to get everything out, because your documents do get checked, and obviously with bags and everything you just want to get things done. So I managed to get the flight on the 9th. I had to go down and get my tests done, because you need to have test for COVID. So I had the PCR test, the IGM tests, and because I was vaccinated already with the AstraZeneca, I had to get an N-Protein test. Now, you should get it because you are asked if you've had a vaccine, and obviously you need to say whether you've had that or not. And if you come back positive on the test for the IgG, you do need then the N-Protein test to show that that's because of the vaccine. Mine was in April, so I had my last vaccine in April, and it was negative. It came back, but I felt good about going to London and paying the extra money, because I had a bit of peace of mind knowing that I was covered, rather than leaving it too late and then having to try and rearrange flights or losing more money because I didn't do it. But that was just a personal thing. So 2 days before the flight, so on the 7th, I went down to have the tests. The results came back. It was all negative. On the 8th, I had to then get onto the download an app, an HDC Health Declaration app, and put my information, scan the documents into that, and then wait for a green code, which I screenshotted, to be able to board the flight at check-in and make sure I had all my documents there. So we went through that. On the 9th, when I arrived at Manchester Airport, got onto the flight and landed in Amsterdam, again on the 9th about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a 23 layover because you have to do tests there as well, which were really straightforward. It's easy to find. So went there, got onto those got those tests done. They all came back negative again, and was able to apply for a new HDC code using the app on my phone again. And then it was a case of waiting until 1 o'clock the next day on the 10th to get the flight from Amsterdam to Xiamen, which took about 11 hours, and then obviously landed in China and was taken to my quarantine hotel where I am now. So that's the time frame from really looking for jobs to landing in China. I will go into more detail about specific aspects of that in other videos to give a bit more detail.